So we discussed at some length the two madrigas of HaKolo of Shmoi HaKolo V'Atzmusei Mamish, and we saw that was the Inen Lamaila was Inen of Yechilas Ha'atzmas. Therefore, it wasn't really shayach to separate it from, or to talk about it, even of separate chas v'shalom from the atzmas, even though it's already called shmoi. We discussed the union was there, and we saw that in the brackets the Rebbe was machalik, and he drew a difference and a chilik that when the union ha'yechilas is under, that's the Nakuda, then just like you can't discuss anything together with the Atzmas, because the Atzmas is Shelah called Matziyas, so you can't separate the Atzmas from Yechiltoi. And we saw that that's even Lamaila from the what he called Koyach Ha'oyer. What the word Koyach Etzvanon indicates a union. The word koyach can have two pirushim. The word koyach can imply a thing that's already been miskalev and nimshach in a certain shiur, how do you say, a certain form, a certain shape or even, and therefore there's definitive aspects which you might almost call limited aspects. So that's in koyach, for example. We're talking in the nefesh about the esek choy sa nefesh. You say moich and midas and even machshava dibur ma'aser, even though they're lavushim, they're also koichet. Each one of them has got some own particular oifen of scholars. Sometimes the word koyach means potential. You say that something is bekoyach and not befoyach. And you say that there's a poyer abomen a koyach, but then the word koyach means a potential state, which is not really peculiar or full expression. However, you also imply with the word potential that there's a certain relationship between the Gdova HaMishkalim Mimenu, the expression of the potential, and the Dover HaMishkal and the koyach and the potential itself. In other words, you say koyach u'poyel, and you mean there's a certain connection between the koyach and poyel. So therefore, the Rebbe said that in the atzmas we also have to say, even though the atzmas can't really be described as a koyach or a mokeh or anything, because the atzmas is muto mikol dover, and therefore that's a big form of discussion in its own right. However, we have to say that there's a certain inyan in the atzmas which he allows to be a form of makir from which we go off the oil. And that's what we call here in the brackets koyach ha'oyer. In other words, we already saw at the beginning of the whole Hemshah, the Rebbe spoke that koyach and poyel are not really shaykh l'mayla, you can't really say, but there's potential and then later there's action. Or later there's full expression of the potential, but by the average the potential and action are all one and the same inyan. But when we said that there's certain inyanim which are like a mokir and a koyach to a scholars, then the way they actually function is immediately there's that koyach, there's b'derech mamela, the nifal mimenu, or the inyan ha-mishkalim mimenu. But when you say koyach, you mean a certain mokeh, a certain source from whence that inyan is to reveal itself. In other words, that the atzmas is made deliberately at a certain level from which will be miskalim mimenu dioyer. Not that that's b'derech mamela in the atzmas, or it has any real reference to him or by him. So the Rebbe pointed out that in atzmus you can't even talk, if you say atzmus, then you can't even say that atzmus is koyach ha'oyer, because if you do, then that's already implying like another entity, something that atzmus is made specially within himself, that he should be a mokeh for that particular gilui. That's already like a separate inyan as far as he's concerned. particularly with the Pshitas and the Shlemus of the Atzmas. Masenke in the Mile of Yechoilis we saw, but that was so miyuchet with the Atzmas that it can even be called the Atzmas, even though it's to a certain extent Shmoi. And therefore we saw that it was Shmoi Kadmain Kekad Musa. We saw as we went along the whole pier that in that level we can talk about Shmoi being primordial exactly as the essence of the Atzmas himself is primordial. And that brought us to all sorts of other inyanim, the inyan from Kedeshim. Once that level is nimsha, well, it can't be nimsha b'derech hishtausus or b'derech seida ha'gilui. We saw the only way that can be nimsha. This adidei aveda b'kabbalah seo malchusha mayim also in our even what the Adam is mevatel kol mitzius as a gamre. But then he can be a sort of a catalyst, as you might say. He's not mamsha, a mamshich, through which the gila, the kedushas ha-yechoilis ha-atzmas can be misgala. We saw that when that happens, then is a yisam kedoshim, le'lekeichem, that then is misgala, the kedushas ha-atzmas mamish, so that the relationship of the inyan ha-kedusha can also have two levels. Kedusha can be in Kodesh from a Dova Zulas, but that's the Kedusha is Adeh Shai Torah V'Giloi, and then there's Kedusha, how it is Mitzad the essence of the Eibishter, he's Kodesh Mudo, Mitzad Atzmai, and we saw that was seen in Malucha of Melech HaKodesh. Once that's Miskale, so then all the Inyonim of the Elamas around, instead of being just related and rechoikim from the kedushas, ha'atzmis ha'shayat or v'golu, in other words, it's shayat to them. In other words, when Avdolah min hazulas, then they become mekablim of the etzema kedusha of the atzmis mitzad atzmai. That we call pnimius ha'malucha, pnimius ha'malchus, and that's the inyan of shochas shmoi ha'atzmi. That causes the demos from kedusha in the whole bria, even from kedoshim, lele keichem, from kedusha atzmiyah. And we saw that the only ones that can really be megala that are yidden, nishomas Yisrael, because they are they're mokir, and the shorosh and nishomas Yisrael. It's in that kedusha atzmiyah. And the Aveda, which is Megala, that Kedusha is the Eved Aposhut, and that was in of Yankiv Avdi, and we saw the whole deal when it get to the Shem Yankiv, that even though Yankiv Avinu got a higher name, that name still remains because it's an essential part of the Aveda of Neshomas Yisrael. Al Pia Nal Yuvan Masha Oma Kodesh Ato V'nei Rosh Hamelcho Masha Oimin. We say in the tefillahs of Rosh Hashanah, you are Kodesh and awesome is your name, or feared is your name. The Hine Ato L'Neikach, when we talk to the Eibishter, how do you call it, person to person, it means L'Neikach when you say Ato. So L'Neikach is a grammatical expression. When you talk directly to a party or to an entity, that's called Noichach. And then there's what's called Nistar. Nistar means when you talk indirectly. For example, Noichach is if you say Ato, you're talking directly to the person. You can also, Noichach is when you say Ani, you say I, because you're assuming that the other party is looking directly at you. But if you say, for example, he, then he just implies that wherever he might be, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's actually under our vision or our discussion. And that's called Nistar. Nistar means something which is not pagolo beregazeh. It's hidden. And that's grammatical expression. So when we use the word Ato, then we're talking in Lashon Noichach. So you're talking directly to the Eivish, Ato, you. So that means a direct expression to the Eivish, how he is. Hainu Mahusi Vatzmusi Man. The very essence of the Eibishter, Shenikra Kodesh, Bibchinas Kedushas Ha'atzmiyas Mamish. But that's referring to, if we say Ato, and then we use the word Kodesh, then we're using Kodesh in the second oifen. דהיינו, דהיינו from Kedushas Ha'atzmiyas Mamish, Kodesh Umudo Mitzad Atzmoi. That's Mitzad the Kedusha Ha'atzmiyas of the Etem, not how it relates and is only Kodesh Mi Eizadova. No, it's Kodesh B'Etem, and that's the Pshat Sha'enu Ba'erech Ha'olam Es Klal Uklal. That's the word Kodesh meaning Muvdal. But that means that it's Muvdal in Ein Areich Klal to all the Nivroim and Oilames. Ve'enu Shayach Loimer Boy B'chinas HaKedusha Mitzad Oilam. And you can't say that that's Kodesh from the Oilames, because that implies that the Oilames have some place or some sort of reference to that Kedusha. Now that means that he's Kodesh and even from Muvdal completely by Ein Areich, absolutely incomparably Muvdal from all the Elamas, even the Elamas are or Elyonim Mamish. He's completely Muvdal in a way which equalizes all of them in their bittul b'metzias legabi that kedusha. And so there he says is that She'inim from kedusha atzmiyas, but it's not shaykh to say kedusha mitzad ha'elamas ki im mashu kodesh be'etem. That's the Kodesh, the Kedusha, and the term Kodesh is mitzad atzmusay. Avo b'chinas shmoy ha'atzmi, yesh b'zeh beis madrega, or shmoy ha'atzmi, yesh b'zeh beis madrega. So Ato is how they call it in Yiddish. They use the expression that's oishgeschlossen. That means that's when you use the word Ato, you're only talking about one possibility. When you say Ato, you mean atzmus. Well, that means Kedushas. And the Havdalah and the Kedusha Mitzad Etem, which is completely beyond any reference or relativity to any other inyan afilu de'elam saki alyonim. But when you say Shimcho, even though you may be talking about Shmoy Ha'atzmi, you may be talking about Shem, it's also on a high madrega relating to the Atzmas, but there's already in that possibilities, because immediately you say Shem, then Shem implies a gilui or a form of his galus mimenu, which is not mamishim, and therefore in the Inyan and Shmoy, even Shem or Ha'atzmi, there can be two possible madregas. A commission is boiled we brought down earlier in the Hampshire in the Maimah the Lafiomim ha'oyer niklal b'hamoyer b'hainu b'chinas ha'oyer k'moishu kolo b'yatzmus mamish she'enu b'chinas mohus u'metzias klal v'hu ma sheshmoy kadmoin ki kadmusay yizbara. So Lafiomim means not that sometimes azoy and sometimes azoy. What it means are certain levels which sometimes they come under discussion. That sometimes the it can be discussed and it can be seen on such a level how it's completely niklal in the mo'oyer, in the source from whence the light comes. Dahainu atzmusi yizbara. Dahainu b'chinas ha'oyer k'moishu kol b'atzmusi mami. That it's included and interwoven in the atzmus absolutely. There's no, like we saw earlier, of Metzias Oyer, and only the Metzias of the Atzmas, even though we call it Shmoy, but it's inseparable from Atzmusay. And that's what we saw was the Inyan for Yechilas, and that's what we described as Shmoy Kadmen Kikadmusay is Barak Kanal. Because Hashem hu b'chinas Kodesh gam kein ki Kedushas Atzma. And then the Shem has got the same Kedusha as the Atom. So even though we have to say that Madregas Dachis, Proti HaInyonim, there is a slight difference, because as we say, well, immediately you say Shem, then Yechilas, you're already to a certain extent talking about somewhat of a Yerida, even Mitzad Atzmusay. Generally speaking, it's the same Kedusha, because when you view that Shem, then you view the Atzmas B'li Shum Davar Nifrat Mimenu. So therefore, in that Inyan, we can say that they have the same Kedusha. Particularly as regards any other form of Kedusha, they for sure have the same Kedusha. And therefore he says, Hashem hu b'chinas Kodesh gam kein ki Kedushas ha'atzma. So the Eibishter's name has exactly the same Kedusha and Havdalah as the Etzem. Ve'al zeh nema ato kodesh v'shimcho kodesh. Now, this is something we say the whole year. This is not a dover which is peculiar only to Rosh Hashanah, but that's a inyan which al yidei our tefillos we can reach, or we can describe that inyan kol hashana. That's what we say. Al zeh nema ato kodesh v'shimcho kodesh. Da Hashem kodesh ki kedushas atzmos mami. You are kodesh, and your name is kodesh. In other words, without any other descriptive terms or adjectives, any other form of words in the sentence which would indicate a difference between them. And therefore we say ato kodesh v'shimcho kodesh. So even though, as we said, it's Shem, it's not mamish atzmos, but for all intended purposes, for all argumentative purposes in this inyan, it's all the same kedushas atzmos.
Is this Shem Havaya or other Shem?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Is it in from Shem Havaya? So we have to say that it is, because earlier we brought down very briefly. We mentioned that in that section of the Hemshech, which was prior to the Dibur Maschil, we saw Imcha and Chayim. Over there, the Rebbe brings down a whole pilpul and Kubalim, etc., etc. Also going to get to the Shem Havaya. And generally speaking, we talk in Chassidus about two levels. The Shem Havaya, what we call the Shem Havaya, how it's shayah to the Esses Sfiros of Atzilas, and Bamela it has a certain shaykhus to Hishtalshalas, because the Esses Sfiros of Atzilas are a mokir and a shaykhus to the Inyan of Hishtalshalas or Ilamas. And we say that's what's called the Shem Havaya de Lielo. That Shem Havaya is called the Shem Havaya de la Tato. It's called the lower Shem Havaya. And then there's a Shem Havaya de la Yeilo, but that's how those Esses Sfiros are in the elements from Maila Mi'atzilas and even in the Shekoyda Matinto. But they're klulim bepshitas in the earth, what we call the Esses Sfiros Agenuzes, but that's all nirmas in the Inyan from Shem Havaya. And then there's another level on Shem Havaya, the emes is, that's also brought in Amar Exodus. That's called the Shem Havaya Mamish Atzmos, that's Nirmas, in different places. That Kaviyohu, the Atzmos himself, expresses himself, or he has in himself a form of his galus in the Shem Havaya. And that's the Rambam, some people say, and the Rebbe, the Shah brings it in Tofresh on Zion, not in the Hemshech of Samach to Samach, in the earlier Hemshech. Over there, he brings here a famous opinion, one of the famous Ginus Aegois. He was a very famous Svadi, Tzaddik, a very great Kubal. He wrote a sefer called Ginus Aegois. He says that when the Rambam writes, you say this, Ve'omer the Chochmes, Leida Sheishon Motzir, so the Rambam begins the Yad HaChazokah. The first four letters, you say that Ve'omud He-Chochmes is the Shem Havaya. So he said, we want to say the Shem Havaya, he could have said it out. He could have said, the Motzir Rishon's called Shem Havaya, and he did Kaf for Kaf, That's why did he call him B'derech Remes the Shem Havaya? So he says that that's the Shem Havaya Shabbatzmas, the famous Inyan, yeah. And it's got to do with the Inyan from Nisavas Yesh Miyayin, and what the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, who Levade Bekerche V'Yecholte, in the famous Sikeres HaKodesh, the Alter Rebbe writes, who Levade Bekerche V'Yecholte, Lahavis is a Yesh Miyayin, where it's Hamuklat. That's a reference to the Koach Atzmos Mamish. That's the Shem Havaya Shabbatzmas. Same kind of Mochem Lahari was there. The amazing thing is that there's not anything anywhere that's said any place that the Alter Rebbe doesn't bring it somewhere in time. That's all. I bet you. I'm willing to put down a bet on it. You name any Indian, from any of the Mukubal, anything, anywhere, all of the things in the whole Samavah, the whole way, everywhere, the middle of everywhere, anything. you'll find that somewhere in Tanya there's a sentence or phrase or something where he gets at it. And that's the Shem Havai Shabbat. So, the answer is that it is to do BMS with the union from Shimcha. Because you ask a good question when we say Shimcha, which name are we referring to? So, but we're referring to the union of the Shem Havai. ועל זה אומר מעט הקודש ושמעון הקודש, השם קודש כקדושת עצמו, מאמין. ולפי יומים, יורד האור להיות מוקר למוקר, to be a mocker for a mocker, a source for a source, al kol panim l'seider ha'ishtalshelut, because we're talking mamish about the Ohr shel Lefnei HaTzimtzum. So until that becomes shaykh, absolutely the Seider Ishtalshelut, on goes all sorts of different geridas. But we saw that it was the Ohr in the Koydem HaTzimtzum that was shaykh already to what we call Hamshocha v'Gilui. So that Ohr which is already B'Atzmusei, Kolo B'Atzmusei in Ha'oivim from Hamshocha v'Gilui, or that's later becomes a Mokeh l'Seider Ha'ishtalshelut. And that's a Yerida in the Ohr. That's what the Ohr had shaykh to say, that it is Nimshat B'Oivin Shel Mailele Mata in Ha'oivim for Yerida. B'Ainu B'chinas Ohr Ein Seif Shehu B'chinas Hamshocha v'Gilui, as we described it before. It's a Ohr which is meant right from the beginning to be in a form of derivation and revelation. Revelation eventually implies somebody to whom you're revealing, the Seider Ha'ishtalshelut. The way we're talking about it here is it's still in the Ein Seif Shel Lefnei HaTzimtzum, but it's already been Mishgala min ha'atzmus, in we could call it a dover chutz mi'atzmus already, oid dover, that we saw before, because it's already ready to be Mishgala and Nimshat to be a mokya for Seider Ishtalshelut. So he said, even though we're talking about a Berega Zeh, how it is Koydem HaTzimtzum. So he said, V'al Zeh Oma V'noiro Shmecha. Now, by time that we're being mafarish the expression Noiro Shmecha, referring to the Ohr, how it's already Nimshach to be a Mokeh l'Seider Ha'ishtalshelut. Why? Dehine inyan Noiro. When you say something is awesome or feared, Noiro, Shayir Davke Kasher Ha'oru P'chinas Gilui. When is it shot to say that something can be feared is only when it is be'ezus shu'oiven of revelation to the Makablim, because you can't fear something which you don't even, you're not aware of it, klal. It's not in some way revealed to you or revealing itself towards you. And then you can fear it, but if it's not forgotten, it's not shot to say that you have fear for it. When do we say that all the peoples and all the subjects fear the king? Igolish is an expression when he verily reveals himself to his people. Oz nikra noira. Then there's this tremendous hullabaloo, and everybody goes out of their kelim and everything when he comes out to reveal himself. And then it's shot to say that everybody feels awe and fear for it, because they see him in all of his grandeur, as you might call it, his reimamus, as we described it yesterday. And then is possible to say yira. Masha'in kein k'sheyeshev gonus b'chadrei heichole, which is not the case when the king is locked up and he's sitting and he's sogur b'chadrei heichole. Demos, it's not shayat to say the inya for noiro. It's not shayat to call him mitzad the makablim fear, because they don't see him and they have no appreciation of him. Begolui, therefore, it's not shayat to say that they fear him. In other words, that or and emissayira can only be nimshach mitzad golo, the gilo. So the emes is that in that Gilui there's got to be a certain grandeur, as we pointed out before. But when the king reveals himself, he doesn't just reveal himself, in his dressing gown, lighting up a cigarette or something. He reveals himself with all of his grandeur and all the pomp and splendor of the Inyan HaMalchus, which means that the Amitius Inyan of the Malchus is Begolo. It's not just Stama a Inyan from Gilui, and it's a Inyan from Gilui B'Shleimas. But the thing is that Lagabi Makablim, it's not Shayat, the Inyan for Yiro, in the sense of awe and fear, and the type of beetle that produces, unless that's Begilo Elecha. If it's not Begolo Elecha, then it's not Shayat, that type of beetle which we call Yira. And it's well known, even when I get to the higher form of Yira, which is called Yira Iloah, but that's in the Yud of the Shem Havaya, V'chulu, or that's all mitzad, the presence of the Shem Havaya and the Gilui of Elikus in the awareness of that person, or awareness, then you can't talk about Yira Amitia. So that was it. The Rebbe, the Inyan for Noiro already is going to get to the Makablim, or that is mitzad, the oil which is shaykh to be misgala to them. In other words, it's already in Mokkeh Harishan. Koyde Matzimtzum, it's the oil which is shaykh to Hamshochav Vagiloi. Ukemoi Kain Hulamayla. That was the moshel. Avin the nimshal davki b'pinus Hamshochas vizgalas oil nikro noiro. Davki when there's a oil which comes in a mokkeh al-chaponim to the whole gather of Gilui, Hamshocha, well then it can be called Noiro. And that's the pshat, Noiro shmecho, da'ainu kasher ha'eru, b'chinus Hamshocha ve'iz, galis. In other words, that when do we say Noiro, davke, a level in shmecho, in Shem, which is already the Inyan of Shem, how it's already Begoli Ela Zulas, and it's not mitzad the Inyan of the Atzmus, like we saw when we talk about Shmoy HaKol B'Atzmus Mamish, but that's the Inyan of the Yechoilas. But here, but generally speaking, when we talk about the Inyan of Shem, the Inyan of Hashem is B'Shvil B'Ika, B'Shvil Azulas. The whole reason why you need a Shem, and the whole reason why we have a Shem, and the whole way that the Shem functions, but to get to the Etzem, and the Adam is in his whole relationship with other people around him. Until it's shy to say that he may not need a Shem if he wasn't subjected to other people, or around other people. Even though B'Pnimis Adorah, B'Pnimis Ha'in, he must have a Shem. Otherwise he can't really have Hamshachas HaNefesh B'Tech HaGuf, V'chulu. But that's already a Inyan Pnimi, which is not really it's well known. The Shem has different madregas, like we see here. That there's a Shem which is shot to the Etzem, and then there's a Shem which in Yoni is Hamshochav V'Gilui. So that Inyan of Shem, which is Hamshochav V'Gilui, well, that's called Noiro, and that's the pshat Noiro Shmercha. This is an interesting pshat. The Dokumta is that the expression that we say kolashon bentayim. This is not the maskana. This is like a maskana bentayim. It's not the final maskana. But what you might call ad koi, the hesber is that the ato kodesh, or that's the kedushas ha'atzmas, and that's the kedushas ha'atzmas l'loi kol Inyan of any form of Shem, even mitzad Yechoilas, now doesn't dimit Inyan ha'atzma. Be'etzem kedushasa and be'etzem inyan. And then there's the Inyan from Shimcha Kodesh, but that we say albeit the whole year. Well, that's referring to the Shem, how it's kolol mitzad Yechoilas, kolol be'atzma. Say, and now we're saying Noiro, wherever that may occur, in whatever forms of tefillah, you may say Noiro Shmecho, Noiro, but again to the Inyan from Shem. That's already talking about a lower level. That's talking about what you might call the Gilui of Shem, and the Inyan of Shem al derech haragil, or as we saw before, the Shem Havaya, how it's already shot to become shot to say the Stausus, the Semavai Dilatata. Well, that's the Indian of Shem, how it's Begiloi, the Hainu, the even before the Tzimtzum outside to Amshacha Begiloi, and therefore you can say that the Makablim from that they have a Indian for Yira. Yeah, they feel a Indian for Yira, like I'm saying. And that's Indian for Neuroshmercha. Nimta, that Neuroshmercha is a lower Bechina and a what you might call a more Shayat to Ishtausus, and the Makablim Bechina than Shimcha Kodek. But we're not going to modify all that slightly, because we're quoting the usage of that expression, B'nei Shmercha, B'neged to the Tfilis of the Aser Meitu, and being to Rosh Hashanah. So there we're going to see that union of B'nei Shmercha gets a different, what you might call, Zavit, that he gets a different angle of expression, mitzad the Goydel Hamayla of Rosh Hashanah. So Hine, he says, by Rosh Hashanah, Mamshichim B'chinas Keser Malchus. That's one honor on Rosh Hashanah where Mamshich Keser Malchus, not just Malchus, but we're Mamshich Keser Malchus, because we're Machtir the king, or the whole Indian of the Kantorah, the Gamsarichas to Mavur, and many Drushim. So it's well known that the word Keser is Rotzen, the Indian. The word Keser refers to will, to Rotzai. So the Rosh Hashanah, all the Oiras and all the Inyanim all go back into the Atzmas. Everything returns back, as it were, to a Zamin level where Kilo only a Ha'ora Chitenius, Sheba Chitenius is left over. We have to be Megala, Mamshik, the whole Inyan Mechodosh. But that includes even the Rotzen for the Oilam, how it is Mitzad HaOilam. That he called Mitzad Chitenius Oilam. Everything has to be brought out anew, as it were, Rotzen, because the Eibishter is Mistalit, B'toich Atzmusi, in a way that even Retoinoi has to be brought out B'golo. So therefore the Klolos Inyan of Rosh Hashanah is to bring about the Rotzen to the whole Inyan of Melucha, which Melucha means that there will be the Makablim, Ki Ein Melech B'loi, all there have to be, in order for there to be the Inyan of Melucha, then we as Nivroim, Lamata, we have to arouse that he should want to rule over us. So one of the reasons for that, why we have to re-arouse that, is because it has no erech, it's not completely and utterly Shaloi B'erech, like Yabei Atzmusay, and therefore we have to be more erech, Mechodosh, the Inyan from Rotzen V'Tainug, that he should want B'chlau, the whole Inyan. So therefore that's the Inyan from Keser, that's the Pshat Keser, She'iyeh Rotzen LaMelucha, Shezeh B'chinas Yizgala Sa'er Liyos Melech Le'olam. That the Eibishter should be a Melech Le'olam, he should be a Melech over the world, how it's a world. Well, we're going to see that that's what you might call the Chitonius of that Rotzen, but that's not the Pnimius of Melucha, no, that's the idea for Melucha. Kipshutei, the simple idea of Melucha, the Hainu, there should be a world, and there should be a whole Seder of Elamus leading down to our world, and it should be a world, now functioning with all the Klolei HaElam, or Kemoyer, like we said, Meloi Chalho, Oilam Kuloi Bichfoideh, as we brought down. But we already mentioned, and we saw earlier when we said that Meloi Chalho Oilam, we brought that down when we get to the Pnimis of the Melucha. So that tends to indicate that there's a Inyan in Meloi Chalho Oilam, which is Mishtame, Letrei and Peyes. That goes to two different, it can be heard on two different Ifan. There's one Inyan for Meloi Chalho Oilam, where he will rule over a world. There'll be a world with all that it implies. And then there'll be a Inyan from Meloi Chalho Oilam Kulei Bichfoidecha, but that'll be a Gilu of the Pnimis V'Atzmi of the Kedushas Hashem Ha'atzmi into the world and the Bittul of the Oilam Amish. And that's what we saw the other diuk that there is in the Tefillas of Rosh Hashanah, that they're all even from Mashiach, they're all even from these scholars of Mashiach and the Oilam Ha'arubili Achrei take of Miyad Mamish, these scholars of Melech HaMashiach. I say this, if you look carefully, that's what you'll see. Erdefa. Says the Rebbe, that's the Inyan, that first of all is Kemoi, and therefore he uses the expression here. He doesn't say Kemoi Shekosu, he just says Kemoi Maloich al Ha'olam Chulu. In other words, that's part of the Inyan. Kemoi. In Maloich al Ha'olam, there's also the Inyan of being a world, B'Pashta. And we saw earlier that there's also Maloich al Ha'olam Chulu B'Chvaydara, which is the Pnimis V'Atzmi, that the Kavanah, the Ainu, that the Shema Atzmi should be Miskali in the world. V'lochein oimrim v'noiro shmecha v'lochein nikroim yomim noi roim, and therefore we say noiro shmecha. That's one reason, one oifan in why we say noiro shmecha, because we're megala the Inyan of the Shema. It's got to do with the world. In other words, we cause the Eibishter to want and to be ready to be miskala even in that level where he's already come down b'amshocha b'gilui in order to give rise to oilam, and he'll be maloich al oilam. And therefore we should use the expression noir. We just said that the word noira is applicable be'ikar to agoya, which is miskala, to the subject or to the makabli. And therefore these days are called yomim noiroim. Well, that's an interesting pshat. One of the Inyanim in Yomim Noiroim means that they're days of revelation. They're days where the king is Begolui, and there's a Inyan of the Rotzen for the world, and there should be a world and everything. Doesn't Begolui be Yomim Ha'im? And therefore you should be, how they call it, full of a Yiras HaKovin, full of a Chayis, in being bottled to the Melech, because he's being Misgala, Almanas, Lifoil, let's go Ishtaushlus for Kolo Ilma. But that's only one aspect of it. And that's what you might call the aspect Kloli, to use the expression, the Chitzonius aspect of it. Omnom, the word Omnom in the usage of the Rebbeim means Aval Biemes. That's what it usually implies. In other words, Omnom means the truth is. In other words, what we've said up to now is correct, but there's a deeper sort of a truth in the matter. Omnom am shochet Rosh Hashanah, he the beginners are kol biatzmusei mamish, or that oil which is so cold that it's called atzmusei, beginners shmoy ha kol biatzmusei, shu beginners kodesh mitzad atzmei, shezehu in v'shimcha kodesh. That's the Inyan of shimcha kodesh. We said that's the Maila in the Tefillah that we say Kol Hashana. That's Shimcha Kodesh. B'china Zu Yum Shach Li B'chinas Malucha Al Olam. Or that Inyan that Ato Kodesh with Shimcha Kodesh, that would tend to imply that when we say Ato Kodesh with Shimcha Kodesh, we're just being modir that there is such a madrega of a lav davke, that's mamish, how they call it, mixed, and it becomes were involved in the Etzem Hanogas HaMelucha. We just say that there's a Ato Kodesh v'Shimcha Kodesh. The Im Moki v'Shoyer, there's also a Shimcha Kodesh. That's how we apply B'Royev Yemois Hashon. Over when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, then the Inyan that Shimcha Kodesh Atzmamish Yechoilas, Mamish Batz Musay, that should be Begolui in the Inyan from Melucha Al Hoilam. We just pointed out that that's Melucha, it's Bechitzonius, it's already come out to give place to the world, that there should be Am Shocha from your Kedusha, the Kedusha, how it is Mitzad the Atzmus Mamish, how it is Mitzad Shema Kolo Biatzmusay, well, that should be Nimshach into the Hanhoge, what you might call the running of the Malchus of the world. That should be the Ika, and that should be Begoloi. So he said, B'chinazu Yum Shach Liya is B'chinas Melucha Al Oelamas. In other words, that even in the Melucha Al Oelamas, there should be a pneumistic change, and there should be there the Kedushas Atzman. And he says that that's the Inyan, Bo Inyan V'yisem Kedoshim Le'elakechan, we have to be Megala into the Yisem, into the ordinary world, the Kedusha of the Atzmas. Kedoshim Le'elakechan, the Kedusha, how it is Mitzad Atzmusi is born. About Dola Atzmi is that becomes Nimshach on the whole world. Yisem Kedoshim. But first of all goes through Yidden with the Neshamas Yisrael. And then Megala that into the whole world, and that's what he says. Ad Shiyeh. B'chinas Kile HaMelucha Mamish Lamata V'yeda kol po paul. Yeah, we saw that yeda kol po ki ato pi alto. It means that everything which is just a paul, it's made, but then paula, which is all the even. Yeah, yesh mi'ayin and chitanius mamish lamata, or that should feel and yeda and know. B'pnimiyusay, or that should know that ato pi alto. Yeah, what we saw, that's the gilui or the kedushas atzmas in every nira. He's in kedoshim le'elekechem. Amamir, it's a moyen dikachiddish. The Rebbe says that the ine from Rosh Hashanah functions in Kain al shnei efanim. That since everything on Rosh Hashanah is mistalik ache lo nish klum, as you might say. Yeah, then first of all, there's ine from gilui amalucha, rotzen l'malucha beklal, that there should be a world and it should all come back and there should be oilam. Oh, but that's only part of the story. That's only the chitanius b'inyan. Oh, but the Rikinim for Rosh Hashanah is hamshochas amitis pnimis amalucha, or that's the Ato Kodesh mitzad atzmai. That should be nimshach into the world, into the olam mamish, until all the brias and all the nivroim afilo a paul. The kol paul ki ato pi. That they should feel in themselves the inyan of Ato. We just said that Ato refers to the Kedushas Achmir. Amamira, that's good, another story. Valze Oma, sorry, Pamira, Achi Yeh Pchinas Kile Hamalucha Mamish, V'yeda Kol Paul. We brought you the Sipur. Last night we mentioned the famous Sipur from the Alter Rebbe. He was called the Magid, the Tkiya Sheva. He said, where's the Alter Rebbe? And they went and found him. And he was Propishat Yadayim V'Raglayim, Al Arit Mittelstender. And he was saying, Yeda Kol Pao, Ki Ato Pi Alto, with the ganze Arichas, Asipur. And that's the Yamiti sin in a Rosh Hashanah. It works on two levels. There's the ine from Klolos, Rotzen, Lemucha, that's a Chitzayiniyas, and there's the Panimias. There's a move on why it is that all the tefillahs of Rosh Hashanah deal be'ikar with the Geula. All the tefillahs of Rosh Hashanah. And Yom Kippur, for that matter as well. All of them deal with the ine from Gilei Pnimis Amalucha. Yeah. And therefore, Maloich al Kol Ha'olam Kulei Bichvoi Decha. The Rebbe said before, K'moi Maloich Olam. That's only the K'moi. That's the in klolish of Malucha. Over the pnimis of Maloich al Kol Ha'olam Kulei Bichvoi Decha. I mean, K'moi Shata Begolei Mamish Atzmus Begolei should be in the whole world. And all the tefillahs and all the inyanim of Rosh Hashanah indicate that. All right, so now we go back to the Shah at the beginning of the Maimah. You remember we saw that we say in that tefillah on Rosh Hashanah, Kodesh Ato V'Noiro Yeshmacha. But that's also an interesting deal. We don't say Ato Kodesh, but we say Kodesh Ato V'Noiro Shmacha. So maybe we could say B'derech Efshar that we say Kodesh Ato, we mean the Kodesh Atzmamish Ato. Not Ato Kodesh, but Kodesh Ato. We're talking about the Kodesh that's even before the Ato. No, it's the Kodesh, how it is Mamish Mitzad Ato. And then we say V'Noiro Shmecha, and then we say Ve'ein Elaka Mibala Delcha. Remember, there's no other God Chashem apart from you. And the Rebbe asked at the beginning of the Maimah, what's that chart to Kodesh Ato V'Noiro Shmecha? Why is it we say them Behem Shechecha? Kodesh Ato V'Noiro Shmecha Ve'ein Elaka Mibala. But tell what's got to do, and how does that Ve'ein Elaka Mibala Delcha, how does that express and be mamshich, the whole inyan of Kodesh Ato V'Noiro Shmecha? So now said the Rebbe, now you'll understand 5 words. He said, Ve'al zeh oimrim Ve'ein Elaka Mibala Delcha, there's no Eibishter, literally, apart from you. So he said it's not so much the pshat that we said there's no Eibush apart from you. What we mean is that the word Elakah in its shoirish form also indicates the Koach HaTzimtzum Elokim is in the same root word. Therefore, Elokim is always indicatory of the Yerid of V'Tzimtzum Liyesh Moker El Inyonim Tachtoinim Yoter. That's the union of Elokim. So The Rebbe says that once we're holding by Kodesh Ator and Noyer Shmercha, which we're still going to see what's at the Taich, then he says, Ein Elokah. No, but there's no Koyach HaTzimtzum, nothing can be master or Mailim on that level, because it's Mamish Gilu HaAtzma. Since it's Mamish Gilu HaAtzma, then nothing can be Mailim or master. And that's the Pshat, Ein Elokah Mibala Telcha, nothing can be apart from you, meaning that nothing can be master on you. You are the Amitis Atzmas Begolot. And so everybody's taking it very Barabatic. What does that mean? That means, we want Moshiach now, but there should be Moshiach now. I think I'm telling you. If you daven properly on Rosh Hashanah and does it the Pshat, that means the Kedushas Atzmas is supposed to be down here. Kedushas Atzmas Mami. V'yisem Kedoshim Le'elokechem means that Kedusha B'golo in Kol HaInyonim, afilu in the world. A Kol Paul can mean almost anything that's made. And from what you hear, as I said, from certain peoples, that they move around a little bit in the Chitania So'ilim, I know in the street where Kaitza was there, and they say that there's a lot of Goyim out there, and others who are saying, we're the Eivishter, what's going on? Where's the Indian of Oilam al Miloi Nivram and the Guns are doing? Meaning that that's really what should be after Rosh Hashanah. If we finish davening Rosh Hashanah the way it should be, then we should just open up the doors of the shul and walk in Melech HaMashiach. Shalom Aleichem. I verwoes je nicht so, ja. I must admit, I'm just so weary. I can't nicht koya. I weiß nicht, was das ist. Ich glaube, we saw in Iron Bay, you guys don't learn Iron Bay, we saw in Iron Bay the other night that the Rebbe says over there that the Indian, is what he calls over there the Makif of Oyer Choiza. We mentioned it earlier in this course, the Indian from Makif, the Oyer Choiza. But that's even the Samach compared to the Mem Sofi. The Mem Sofi's got a little bit of it Yashvut. Actually, the Samach is that's the Makif and Pnimi V'Atzmi, and that's going back always into the Atzmi. So it's never Begoloi. That's called the Makif the Chayza. So the Rebbe writes over there that's in Gilu HaKetz. He said that the Gilu HaKetz is so not Begoloi, so going back all the time into the Eibishter, that he said it could be that the Ketz is about to be Mizkala of a Royim Ha'ifach Mizah. I didn't state tonight, mate. But you see only the Ha'ifach, because it's so hidden within the Atzma that what you see, you can't really see the Ketz. It could be this much the Ketz of he doesn't want you to see it, but he's a Harega. Therefore, near a Kilo Ha'ifach, one inside. And it seems to me that that's what's happening. Kijk eens, we zitten al in van hepertje bij heper. Alles. And here, the Rebbe says, and the Rebbe tells us, Mom, he said, every second, and that the Gula is already there. What? It's coming, it's already there. So the Rebbe Hashem says the bureau, he says the sword. Because that's mamish me, atzmusik, but it's from Azar, Indian atzmusik, which is always kilo oile, not yore, but miskala, it can be there, but you don't, on the contrary, ordinary so-called human eyes seem to think it looks the opposite. There's an old saying in English, there's a limit to everything. I mean, we've already been Mekayim that also be here to God. So now the Shaila is Adma Tzar. In other words, even more than that, maybe we say, let's get moving. Adma Tzar is also a little bit of sort of, an exception. We don't really know Adma Tzar. Maybe we say, no. He says he's only going to say no from now on. He's got a point. So that's what the Rebbe said. Das ist der Pshat. Ve'ein elakam mibala delcha. Tegam li'acha yirida so'oyer. Yeah, that even if we're going to talk about this type of gilui, that mamish, the pnimis ha'maluch is going to be begoloi, and the oyer, the kedushas ha'atzmus is going to be begoloi, then gam li'acha yirida so'oyer eine bo beginnes helem va'ester she yisalem v'yistate. He said that level of oil, the kedushas ha'atzmus, even after it comes down into golui, it remains gilui ha'atzmus. If we remember, all the koiches of Helem v'Esther can't really be mailam or master on it. Therefore, it'll be a neuro shmelcha. We're going to see in a second. It's a new touch in neuro shmelcha that the shema atzmi kol be'atzmi. That's neuro. That's going to be begolui and feared, as it were. And remember, once that's like that, then Helem v'Esther can't work anymore. No matter what Helem v'Esther you'll bring, it won't be able to be mailim on that level. So therefore he said the gam li'acha yirida so'oyer. This type of oil, meaning, yeah, ain't a bob. He's Helem v'Esther she yisalem v'yistate. It can't possibly hide and be hidden. The oil ain't safe. Shehu b'chinus ha'gilui v'ais pashta. The oil ain't safe. Well, that level that we saw in Shmoi, which is what he shot to Giliva Hamshocha, Harihuba, Tzimtzum, it's affected by the Tzimtzum, Shemis Alim, or Mistate Boilom, and that's where you talk about Helem v'Esther, Shainem Meir Begilui Mamish, it's Begilui, but it's not Begilui Mamish, or Mismayet Mi Madregelema, Dregel, well, that's the whole in of Istaushus. Istaushus implies that from every ilah to all there's a certain symptom in the ilah in order to produce his olam. And therefore it goes with, albeit gradual symptomim, but it's misalim mistate from madre ad shelamatu b'kinus hester lamata bezer ho'ilam. It's Helem v'Esther. You don't see gil elakus unless you really put yourself to it. Or you go to 770, okay, is it kasher ha-helem ha-atzmi da ain't safe. Oh, but once that helem ha-atzmi, what is it, the shem ha-kol mamish bi'atzmus, as we saw, shezeu ha-kol bi'atzmus a mamish canal. In other words, the if you choiles ha-atzmus, yeah, mayo mizgale, well that's mamish against all the general rules. He mamish literally mitzadi, what you might call the choiles of the atzmus, he forces that into golui. That's mamish. Hinei ha'oyer hazeh einu misalem or mistate b'prinus atzimtum. The tzimtum can't affect that. It's too atzmiyas. In other words, nothing affects it. It's just what it is. It's just like how it was mitzal atzmusi. That's the way it is when it's miskala. As if the tzimtzum doesn't interfere, then there's no really milo mata. No, everything just becomes morally giluya ha'atzmi. There's no really shach anymore. Seidah madregas. This is more gilu or this is less. No, like it is biatzmusi. That's how it is la. So Kodesh Ato v'noiro shmecho. Remember, it's a new pshat now in noiro shmecho. Kodesh Ato v'noiro shmecho means that same kedusha that is in the atzmas, then in the shem, which is also mitzad the atzmas, well, that's going to be noiro. In other words, like we saw, you can only have noiro mitzad gilui. So that Ato Kodesh, that's going to be begolui, and that's going to be even for noiro. It's going to be mitzad the mekabli ma'yiro and a iskalas of that Indian out is mitzad the Indian from Kodesh Ato. The Kodesh Ato who begin kedushas atzmas mami, but no Rosh Mecha in this pshat down who begin am shochas v'izgalas. Yeah, ain't noch anamit. That's what we said before. But izgalas zois, but this particular izgalas he begins kedushas atzmas. In other words, earlier we were talking how this mitzad the seder of all the inyanim is noiros, and the seder words be amshachav and gilui b'lavachi, right in the very short. Over here we're saying noiro, that noiro means it's going to the mekablim, how it is mamish mitzad the atzmer. Remember, kodesh ato v'noiro shmech, it's all one hemshech, and it's all one Indian, which colors these Prince Kedushas or Atzmas. But that particular is colors, but that can only come from the Kedusha of the Atzmas, and since it's Kedushas Atzmas, then it's just Meir B'kol HaMadregas of B'kol HaMakayim B'li Sheshum Tzimtzum Yuchol L'Tzamtzem or L'Halim Eter. Now, Helem Ha'atzmi Hu Shebo B'Gilim. Remember we touched yesterday the expression Helem Ha'atzmi. Just like the Atzmas is moved out and withdrawn from every Indian Gilui, then he becomes Dafke B'Gol. Well, that very Helem Ha'atzmi changes and it becomes Gilui. Now remember, Hu Ha'atzmi, Helem Ha'atzmi Hu Bo B'Gilui, and that's only the Atzmas can do that. How do you call it? Only he can. Only he can do that. Well, that becomes B'Gol Ulazais. And therefore, Ein Elokam Miboladercha. And therefore, no koyach of Helem can be Mailemo master on that. And therefore, Elokam means Stimtzum Helem. No Helem can be Mailem on that. Yeah, Ulazais, Ein Elokam Miboladercha. She'ein kan Shum Helem v'Tzimtzum Klal. U'mei Oer Begilu Ilamata. Mata, what sort of oil? The oil is Mamish Mitzad Atzmus is though. Many. If I has any more my money after that, that should have been it. Have you ever seen a shot like that? Kodesh Ato v'Neiro. Neiro means Pagolo. That the Kodesh Ato is Pagolo. Neiro Shmaz. Not like usual. Not like it is usual. That's the eating for Rosh Hashanah. So we had 2 full days of Rosh Hashanah. And immediately after that we had Shabbos Tushim. I tell you, well, we were just sitting around there with it. Trying to cope with the call of the mice. What's going on about it? I tell you, this is something. You realize what they're saying? The Amshach of Rosh Hashanah is the Kodesh Ata Nui Rosh Hashanah means the Shema Out is Mitzat the Atzmi. Well, that's a Begolah. An whole world. Yair Kol Paul. Any Paul knows on Mitzat that killer. Ato Paul. If America, how do you call it? Even the Elam Goylam weiß the Ato Pialta.
Question.
Huh?
I have a question.
Yeah.
By like people, if you say the person's name, it's more personal than if you say you over there, Ato.
Yeah.
So
no. What we meant was that we're talking grammatically speaking. There's certain what are called personal adjectives that either lanoichach or otherwise. So ato, who, he, zeh, those sort of things. They're either noichach or zeh. Of course, you call a person by his name, and that's much more direct. You understand? But in that gufa, we're talking about the 2 levels. There's the meaning of that name, how it's mamish nageh to him and only to him. That's kilu his yichud with his own name, which can be described in all sorts of pnimistic oifanim. And then there's even what you need your name for the sake of your relationship with other people. You have to have a name, otherwise you can't really relate to the area of life around you. Follow? But if he's there, we can imagine a person not having a name. If he were to be brought up, if he were to be a Robinson Crusoe, right from the beginning, so he wouldn't need a name. So that's only mitzad that. But we pointed out mitzad the other Indian name, then you do need a name. And you're given it even if you're not called by that name. Even nobody calls you that name, you still got it. Okay, so there we are, guys. So perhaps I don't know what what's going on.
Do you have time for a couple of questions?
Yeah, sure.
It could be that I just knew this and I don't understand completely what you said, but you said that.
Well, I wouldn't be all that surprising.
You said before in the Maimer, or the Rebbe Shem said before in the Maimer, the thing of Atzmos, and specifically this thing of Yecholis, is that the fact that it's not Begoli is the fact that it makes it Atzmos, so to speak, right? So here we're saying that it's Begoli. So what is?
No. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's, I would say it the other way around. That the Atzmos allows you to talk about his Yecholis. Not they talk about Yecholis in the Atzmos. Anyway, that's a small point. But that's what I pointed out at the end of the matter. Ein Nachanami, a very good question. So how can that become Begoli? How can something which is mamish only because of the mitzad the Atzmos, how can that be Begoli? So we said that's only he can do that.
Oh.
You understand? And he does it. And that's brought down in some places. As a matter of fact, it's in the Iron Base. That's brought down about that. That's what we just learned about a week or two ago in our share in the Iron Base. And that's written that only he can force the Atzmos to come to God. It's not there in any of the rules of Gilui. On the contrary, it's modo b'tachlis, and when the country goes back into him the whole time, any form of Gilui would sort of automatically withdraws back into him. Mitzad the Atzmos. But if he wants, then anything can happen.
Right. Okay, that's that. Okay.
In other words, we have to be spoiled that he should want.
And the second question is, you said that you could only fear something that's Begoli, right? So what about us that we don't, so to speak, see, even that what the three of the Rosh Hashanah calls Geluim, we don't. I mean, I personally don't see any of these things. So how could, and the Hashem commands us to fear him.
Well, you see, you're a little bit not correct, because we do see a lot, but that's because to a certain extent we've been, as it were, assisted by our parents, our mashpiyim, Torah, the whole Gilead, Matan Torah, and all those Yonim. They've made it possible that you can, if you want. If you don't want, then that's a problem. But it's possible to see Hashgacha Pratis and to see all sorts of Yonim. So what it means is that in our ordinary everyday lives, Elokus is mamish begoloi, whether that be mitzad Matan Torah, mitzad certain inyanim. And that's what you'll notice in the Shara Yichud, in Perikei, the Alter Rebbe brings over there that at the beginning the Eibush wanted to create the world by Midas Adin, in other words, there'd be no Gil Elokus. And he says, Shitafi Moi Midas Arachamim, which means Giloi, Tahainu, and the Alter Rebbe teaches. Gila Elakusa is Baruch Alidei Tzadikim Validei Mois Oisa is Moivsim Shabatoira. First of all, Alidei Tzadikim. In other words, that since we have a Rebbe, then we know what Elakus is. You can't say you don't know. Because the Tzadikim, they're the first thing that's Megal Elakus. And then there's Oisa, so Moivsim Shabatoira. There's Nisim and things which happen mitzad the kedusha of Torah. Those type of Nisim, and first they're Megala to everybody in the world. Of that. So what does the Alter Rebbe mean? Shabbat is also a big shaila. What is the pshat of that definitional concept? What it means is that we see Nisim and Niflois, which are brought into the world, are promoted by the kedusha of Torah. Then you do see Gil. Everybody says it.
Okay, that's understood. And my last question regarding the Maimer is, we said before that Eved Pasha says Shachar from Atzmos when he does his service, right?
Everyone?
Yeah, Eved Pasha, so to speak, draws down Atzmos when he does his service. Right. So what's the difference between that Shachar and Shachar and Rosh Hashanah? What's the difference between that Shachar and Eved Pasha?
Yeah, that's very good. So what are you supposed to do on Rosh Hashanah? What do you try to do on Rosh Hashanah? Just try to give yourself away to the Eibush, and what do you do the whole time when you get a spare moment? You say some Tehillim.
Right.
I mean, if you want, you find a few minutes, you learn a little bit of Tehillim. But the Ikka in Lubavitch and Rosh Hashanah is just absolute Kabbalah Seo, completely and utter Kabbalah Seo, and saying Tehillim. So that means that on Rosh Hashanah everybody has to become an Eved Pasha. You understand? If he doesn't, he's missing the bus.
Right. So but this Shachar of the Eved Pasha, this is shared to the entire year, not just
in other words, on Rosh Hashanah we all become a Eved Pasha too. And that's what Abdullah said, that he wanted to be like that the whole time, but he felt that he was a whacking great Eved man. He certainly was. He said he'd like to be an East person. He'd like to try. That's what I was talking with Yaron last night. We're going to have to at some point sum up the whole interrelationship between these two. But ultimately, we can't just completely write off the Eved now. We have to say that he does have some part in the Avodah of everybody, even the Eved Pashut. On Rosh Hashanah, that's for sure. On Rosh Hashanah, everybody has to put himself into the oifen of service of the Eibush of the Eved Pashut.
That's wow. And the last question is, when you say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu, you're referring to the three levels, right? The Atzmus and then or Ein Sof and down to the Tzimtzum.
It's a whole state of Gilui. Atos Atzmus, Shem Havaya is the Shem Havaya. All the Sheba Atzmus will get further down, and then Elokeinu is more how it becomes Tzimtzum, Klapei the Nivroim, and so on and so on. Yeah, and Melech Ha'olam is only Malchus, how it's going out into Elam Spree, etc.
Robert, do you think about this every time you make a bracha?
Oh, it's good to try, yeah.
Wow. You don't think? Like,
so some people say that what you do is at the beginning of the day you try to really do it, and then you rely on what you had at the beginning of the day, and that's what carries on.
But what does it mean, Ato Asher Kedishana? Like, Atzmus sanctified us to do mitzvahs? Like, one level of Atzmus Hashem sanctifies us to do mitzvahs also?
Sure, that's what we're learning. The whole meaning of the mitzvahs, Davke, comes from Atzmus. That's what he says a bit later. Mamish in the Maimon from Sukkot. A little bit later, he says that these two madrigas are madrigas from mitzvahs and Torah. We'll see more about that as we go on.
Wow.
Over the Emerson from the mitzvahs is Shatat.